Biofriendly Podcast. It's the Biofriendly Podcast.
Howdy, Noel.
Howdy, Jacob. How you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Great.
It's a wonderful day.
Yeah, it is a wonderful day.
It's a good day to do another podcast.
I feel like it is.
I think so.
I feel really podcasty.
I think we've done dozens of these by now.
Oh,
right?
we had to have. Feels like it.
I did lose that entire. Feels like I did lose that entire hard drive of all the podcasts we'd made over the past few months. So we're kind of starting from scratch.
We made like 200 or 300 podcasts.
I feel really bad about it. I don't know how data works.
So how many do you think we have roughly?
I'm gonna guess we're somewhere that you could count on one hand, somewhere around there.
I mean, that was some of the best stuff we've ever done.
Sadly, there were things brought up in those podcasts that probably would have, solved every problem.
Wow.
Even
the ones
that's
we had
me being humble.
How about the ones we had the great guests, like the one with Al Gore?
Oh,
that's lost?
Gone. DiCaprio, gone.
Gone.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
The one with AOC? It's gone?
Gone. Yeah.
So we have no guests now.
It's just back to you and me. Just back to the OG gang as the fans.
The fans?
No.
As the fan knows.
As the fan knows. Speaking of that one fan, I'm Jacob Givens.
And I'm Noel Carroll.
And today, Noel, we're going to talk about coffee.
Yeah!
Coffee.
I love coffee.
I thought this would be coffee. I know. I'm going to play that clip.
Okay.
Coffee. There it was.
There it was. Good old Sledge.
I thought that was Sledge from Good Cops, one of our shows. You should definitely watch it at some point. While you're cleaning,
driving,
recycling. But today we're going to talk about coffee. Java.
Right.
Are you a fan?
I love coffee.
I do too.
I do. It gets the kick in the morning. I used to not drink it, and then my wife, she loves coffee, and she liked to make a full pot in the morning because it was easier to measure the coffee and it tasted better. And
sure.
So she kind of convinced me that I should have some coffee so that we're not wasting half a pot of coffee.
So she lured you in to the evil clutches of
did, and
coffee.
I started having that sort of to support her, and now I'm addicted to coffee. And
it all makes sense
and
now.
I love it.
Yeah, I know. I am too. Through college, I didn't even know the magic that was coffee. Like most college students use it to get through finals or study. I was back then still drinking, vats of Dr. Pepper to stay up all night. And then it wasn't until my first job in California, in Los Angeles, where my boss would give me a 20 and he would say, hey, go downstairs and get me a mocha, whatever, and get yourself whatever you like. And
wow.
And I felt like if I came back without anything, it would be rude because that was his justification for sending me down to get coffee was, I'll give you the 20. But if I came back empty handed, it would be like, why didn't you do what I asked you to do?
Right.
You were supposed to get yourself
You're fired.
Something. Right.
Yeah.
So I just decided, okay, I'll get myself, I don't drink coffee. So I got myself a mocha.
Right.
And
that's a good start.
That's a good gateway drug into coffee. Oh boy.
It is the alcohol or marijuana of coffee.
It is mochas. The alcohol or marijuana of coffee. So that's it. Yeah, that would sell even more cups, I think. Yeah. So I had that and I noticed I was incredibly more productive that day at work. I got so much done and I was like, I see the appeal. I see why people love this.
Nice.
And from then on, to this day, every morning I have coffee.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much tradition.
Yeah,
and
we even have a nice little afternoon walk.
We do.
We take a little afternoon walk. We have a little bit of coffee.
Yeah.
It's nice.
We've made a habit of in the afternoon, we want to get the creative juices going. We make a cup of coffee. We go for a little stroll. So it's become kind of our thing. So that's why I thought this would be a good one today because, coffee is one of those things that has to be grown around the world, specifically in certain regions that are, known for it.
Right.
And I have those listed here somewhere because I didn't know them by heart. Do you know any off the top of your head?
No. Colombia.
Yeah, there you go. That's one for sure. But there's
I feel like kind of that band actually sort of near the equator is a pretty good spot.
You are correct.
Provided there's water.
Yes, it's notoriously known as the Bean Belt.
Yeah.
A range of certain latitudes circling the globe. The belt includes Java producers like Brazil, Vietnam, Ethiopia, Guatemala, Colombia. All of these are places that coffee comes from. So
nice.
So this is one of those things that when I started researching it, the first thing that got me to want to talk about it is that there was an article called Coffee's Invisible Carbon Footprint.
Ooh.
Yeah. So it's not all this is going to be one of those things that we talk about, but then there's a lot of ways to improve, help, and steps that have been taken by coffee producers and distributors around the world that are all steps in the right direction.
So basically what you're saying is we all have to stop drinking coffee.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. If you like coffee now, you have to stop.
Stop it or you're going to kill everyone.
You're going to kill everyone. The planet is just resting solely on the fact that you're still drinking coffee.
You, Dan, are still drinking coffee.
Dan, listen up. It's all your fault. I so hope there's somebody named Dan. Who's
there better be. No. I hope he writes in.
Yeah. Hey, Dan here. Feel bad.
Hey, Dan. This is Dan. I'm gonna cut back on my coffee. Yeah, it's awful. Didn't realize I was killing all of us.
I had no idea. Next day in the news, it's climate carbon numbers have just plummeted, and the world seems to be doing it. Dan's like, well, you're welcome. So it's it has a lot of environmental impacts on our world, and one of those is there's leftover grounds, non-recyclable coffee pods, paper waste from gazillions from grande to-go cups, and then of course there's milk. There's a lot of aspects of the milk, the sugar. All of these things are have a carbon footprint behind them. All the things that are making them, and up to a certain point in the coffee industry, it was a little bit more problematic before we had things like fair trade and organic, and like now there's a lot of pressure for the big dogs like Starbucks and Peet's and these big name companies to do it fair trade and organic, all the way down to the very local, like small family owned, like niche little coffee producers. Those companies, of course, everybody's going in that direction. So I think we've made a lot of steps in the right direction. I know Starbucks is kind of the number one thing that probably everybody thinks of Starbucks. Coffee bean and tea leaf, right? Those would probably be like
the largest.
Yeah, the largest in the world. And it's interesting because as I dug up stuff on Starbucks, of course, there is a lot of material and media out there that supports that Starbucks is doing great things in the world. Okay. So there's a lot of that.
That's good.
But then you will also find people who be like,
no,
not necessarily. No. So, I mean, that's the thing is if you are a multi-billion-dollar company, they are definitely doing a lot of good things. But at their size that they are, there's still a lot of problems because,
So, like, what are people upset about with Starbucks?
Well, I mean, I think that. So let me see if I can find some of the stuff that I found. I mean, one of the things that they're famous for. I was talking about the good stuff first. Coffee and farmer equity practices, which is called cafe practices. Here's some of their green initiatives as part of its new Take two on that. As part of its new Starbucks Greener Stores initiative, the coffee retailer plans to have 10,000 environmentally friendly stores worldwide by 2025. Among the goals, the program announced Thursday. I don't know what Thursday that was. It was a good one, though.
I remember Thursday.
Is for the company to generate enough energy by solar and wind power to offset all the electricity needed to run the chain stores in U.S. and Canada.
Cool.
Yeah. So these are, and then of course this announcement of this cafe practices by 2025. This comes after the heels of the company's announcement that it will eliminate plastic straws in all stores globally by 2020. And we've already touched on that.
We already touched on straws. Yeah. Okay.
We've covered that. Yeah. We've solved straws.
Nobody uses straws anymore.
Problem is over. So those are good things that they're doing, and they definitely have fair trade brands and organic whatnot. But the problem with Starbucks is we were talking.
They burn their coffee.
We know that it's burnt, and if you drink Starbucks coffee and you don't know that it's burnt, you need to go to Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf for Peet's and try what a non-burnt cup of coffee tastes like. It's very true. I still go there, though. Of
course, it's everywhere. How could you not?
It's impossible to avoid. Like
we're probably in one right now. We don't even know it.
We are actually broadcasting our Starbucks. The looks we're getting from the baristas right now is when I'm like, well, Starbucks burns their coffee. This guy Troy looks really mad right now.
Yeah.
Like, screw you, Troy.
Poor Troy.
Wrote my name wrong in the cup anyway.
You did.
So, but the bigger problem is being as big as they are, as commercial as they are. That of course is hundreds and hundreds of acres of land that oftentimes have to be, deforested and whatnot in order to get the crop, the needs, all the materials that they need in order to make such a massive global company. So that's why, there's good news, there's bad news. So
they're cutting down forests.
Yeah.
But they're also creating jobs.
Yes.
and they're least okay. So they're okay.
They're trying. They're trying is all I'll say. But I'll say that that's just the danger when something becomes that big. I think that's the challenge. The danger is that when something becomes the number one, like the biggest company in the world,
right?
It just has to manufacture millions upon billions of goods for people, right?
Well, and the issue usually with that I mean, obviously getting rid of a lot of forest isn't great, but the issue normally is that it's done sort of haphazardly and in a manner that the forest has no hope to grow back.
Right.
So I wonder if that'd be something to be interesting to look into, is if they're doing that in a remotely sustainable way, or are they just kind of like the good old McDonald's cow farms, just clearing out just mass amounts of land and leaving it to rot?
I think that's a good question, and I think that's what we should ask our listeners. If there's somebody who has a little bit more insight into the means in which companies like Starbucks or even Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf have to get their coffee. What are the steps that are being taken to help replant?
Mm-hmm.
Are they, every time they're clearing out an area, are they making sure they're planting elsewhere? That I don't know. So if you have that knowledge, then please write us now.
Drop us a line.
Hashtag coffee. No, that's too broad of a hashtag.
We'll find it. I swear. We'll find it. We'll
find it. Just hashtag coffee. There's no other tweets that say hashtag coffee. It's a little too broad. How about sustainable coffee or eco coffee, green coffee, biofriendly coffee
podcast?
Yeah, biofriendly. Yes, hashtag biofriendly podcast, and then you can add hashtag coffee in there, and then I'll find it.
And then we'll find it.
Yeah, for sure.
And then write about donuts.
Yeah.
Just to confuse us.
Yes, just throw hashtag donuts in there. It's a breakfast theme.
Throw some stuff.
By the way, I was when I started researching this topic for this podcast today, initially I was gonna do breakfast.
Oh.
But that's a rabbit hole that I was like, I'm going to need a week to research this because we're talking the eggs manufacturing process, poultry, that whole,
Maybe we could have breakfast month.
Oh, yeah. Let's
go through the pieces.
That's a lot of subject material. So I started with coffee and I was going to dig into breakfast, and I was like, man, I don't think I have enough time. We're going to have to record this in 3 weeks, if I have to do that one. So I focused on coffee because I figured it was accessible. Do you like tea too, by the way?
I love tea.
Yeah, I'm not well versed on my teas. You'll have to educate me on teas.
Teas are
they're nice.
They're fine. They're great.
Hashtag teas are nice.
Teas are nice. You feel good when you drink. You stick up your finger.
Yeah, it's
your
very
little pinky
posh.
up there.
It feels posh.
Sometimes the best part about tea is if you're really going for it, you can put it on a tea cup.
Oh.
So you got a teacup on a tea dish.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then sometimes with a little tiny spoon.
Oh my.
And then you can kind of clink the tea.
That sounds so royal.
Have a sip of that, and you get in maybe a biscuit or a chalky.
Biscuit?
Yeah. Biscuit or a chalky.
Chalky?
Yeah,
I love it. Well, that sounds very European.
Yeah, European. Yeah. It's the Aussies that I get from. My family's Australian, so that's where I get that from. But they got it from England.
I'm just one of those unrefined Americans that we just know our coffee. So
I mean, that's okay.
It's okay.
That's who we're talking to.
All right. Well, all right. That's fine. Yeah. But I did find, so that's one of the things is there are ways though that we can brew a greener cup of coffee.
All right.
That's definitely so. I've got some tips here that I brought along with me.
You mean the average Joe can make a greener cup of coffee?
Absolutely.
Wow.
So let's see. This is always like whenever I have these articles in front of me, I need to do my preparation and underline and circle things because every time we're recording and I'm supposed to look for that one key thing that I remember, I was like, I'm going to bring that up on the podcast.
This is going to really make the difference.
This is really going
to. When they hear this, people are going to get it.
They're going to be like, oh, that's all I have to do. But instead, I end up searching for it.
Looking through the whole thing.
Yeah. Exactly. I'm just gonna, you know what? If you guys don't mind, I'm going to read this 4-page article from start to finish.
I'll do the background music.
Yeah. So. So here's the thing. Once you've found beans with a lower environmental impact, that's like step one, right?
Right.
Is you're in the grocery store,
beans.
You look for, and actually I'm going to break down each of those labels here in a second about what each. Actually, let's do it right now since it's up. It can get confusing if you're in the store and you see fair trade, organic, Rainforest Alliance Corporation, or whatever, these things on there, here's some ways to clear those up, okay? Fair trade. If your coffee says fair trade, it means coffee guarantees minimum price for farmers, fair working conditions, and environmentally sound practices. Got it?
Okay.
Yep, that's fair trade. Organic means the coffee was grown without synthetic fertilizers, but with methods that improve soil and water quality and conserve wetlands, woodlands, and wildlife.
Wow.
Say that 3 times fast.
Yeah, that's good.
Wetlands, woodlands, wildlife. Rainforest Alliance certification recognizes good waste management and soil conservation as well as fair wages.
Okay.
Shade grown
Shade grown.
is not an official certification, but the designation signifies that the beans were grown under a canopy of other vegetation, which is good for the land and the local wildlife. I have never known what shade grown meant.
Is it good for the coffee? Does the coffee better when it's shade grown? Do you know?
I don't know. It's good for the environment. It's good for the animals. It's good for the vegetation.
I mean, it sounds outstanding.
Yeah, I always thought it was just somebody kind of throwing some rudeness at the coffee, like
Man,
just throw
this
some
coffee's
shade.
shade
You know,
grown.
just throw some shade.
It's so shade
Coffee's
grown.
lame. It's like this shade grown coffee.
I wouldn't drink that coffee.
Punk coffee. Yeah, and then it says, let's see, bird lovers should look for the official Smithsonian Migratory Bird Center Bird Friendly certification, which verifies the coffee is shade grown as well as organic. That's a long title. So if you really want to dig into it, Smithsonian Migratory Bird Center's Bird Friendly certification. Wow. That's a badge of honor.
They put that whole thing on the
All
label?
It's on there.
It's a
All
whole
on
gigantic,
there.
great big circle.
They put it all on one K-pod, the Keurig pods. It's really hard to see. No, and I bring those up as a joke, but I bring those up. Those things are bad news.
Yeah.
K-pods. Here's the crazy thing. I don't know if you knew this, but the guy who invented the Keurig, John Sylvan, or is one of the people he has gone on record and said,
I'm a Nazi.
no. Close. Not quite Nazi, but he said, you're just thinking of the guy who did the Panera bread and the Dunkin' Donuts
That poor
thing.
guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he donated, though.
Yeah, he
made
donated money. He made good, and it was like his great-great-grandfather.
Yeah.
And he
wasn't even the Nazi.
He wasn't the Nazi. It was family Nazis.
It's just the Nazi
which
family.
are problematic Nazis to have. And he gave
But
11...
I feel like there's a lot of people who feel like they're in a family of Nazis.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, especially the Hitlers. You know, that's like there's definitely a guy out there named Charles Hitler, and he's got a lot of baggage.
Charles and his brother Levi.
Levi Hitler. Yeah. So, no, it's not Nazis. It's the fact that, what was I saying? The K-pods. John Sylvan, one of the co-founders of Keurig, he's gone on record, 2014, 2015, said, I really regret making these. Because I think it was only a couple years ago, they had manufactured 10 billion of the K-cups, and there were enough to go around the world 10 times the waste. Wow. So they're problematic. And back then, when he went on record, he said, these things are not recyclable. Now, the good news is I actually have a Keurig machine, and I just recently found that they make compostable pods. Oh. So they make pods where the lid is plant-based. Okay. The filter is plant-based. It's like made out of various different, vegetation items, and you can compost the pod once you're done with it. So I just started buying those because, man, I'm learning as much as you guys are. Like, all of this stuff is really a wake-up call for me, too, because I had a Keurig. It was a gift to me, and I thought it was incredibly convenient. Didn't even, over the past year or so, just didn't even think about the impact. But they're a big problem, those plastic cups. But now you can specifically you can look for compostable ones, or they make aluminum or hard plastic versions that are reusable over and over and over again. So you buy the pod and you fill it with the coffee. So if you have a Keurig, you're making your own K-pod. Ah. So I think the key that we'd like to kind of send home to everybody is if you have a Keurig machine and you like that single-use coffee, you need to keep in mind that there is a lot of ways to use that machine still have your Keurig single-cup coffee, but not buying the single-cup plastic ones, the disposable plastic ones. Those are bad news.
Pretty brutal.
Yeah. Not good, and it's something that definitely that's a big no-no that I found when I was going through this is ditching single-serve pods as those specifically. I think the compostable ones are okay. So, what was the other one? Okay. So it also is better to, you can pour over preparations are better, of course, than the electric coffee machine, but not everybody has time for that. I get that's always instead of buying disposable filters, try to get one of those gold filters that comes. Well, that's the one we have downstairs. Instead of buying the paper filters,
get a built-in filter.
Get the built-in filter, which are the gold kind usually, and you can reuse and wash those out. So you don't have to keep buying filters to swap them out. So that's another big step there. And of course, use your own mug.
Right. Instead of using the cups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing, man. And that's where I think that Starbucks and Coffee Bean and Pete's
have destroyed the earth.
Yes. No, this entire episode, you've been the best hype man.
Yeah.
I want to put everything you've said with echoes behind it.
Yeah. That's all I'm doing here. I'm just backing up.
The earth.
Nazi.
So yeah. They've destroyed the earth. No, when you think about this. When you think about Starbucks, you think of that cup.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
That's an
icon. The logo on there.
The logo on the cup. You think of the white
and the nice
cup.
plastic lid.
Exactly.
And the little brown ring that goes around it to keep my fingers from burning off.
You got it.
Yeah.
You got it. And even Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf and all these other coffee vendors, you think of that white cup now kind of as the iconic coffee
it's the modern day cigarette. Mm-hmm. It's like the cool people on TV they have a cup of coffee. Yeah, they just sit there with their cup of coffee there, and they have their sip, and they're hanging out having a conversation with someone doing something important, sounding all sexy.
Oh yeah,
and it makes me want to grab a cup of coffee and be as cool as
absolutely
that person from TV.
Yeah, with with language barriers around the globe, if you were to show somebody an image of that white cup, they would know. Oh,
yeah.
Coffee.
That's a cup of coffee.
Yeah, Starbucks or whatever.
Yeah.
So they've kind of created this brand behind that image, and I think that one of the things that would improve Starbucks standing and a lot of these big dogs, they got to move away from everybody thinking they have to get their coffee in these to-go cups. We should move to bringing kinds with you, like bringing some kind of container that you buy, you invest in, and you get your coffee filled in that. Or there's got to be, I don't know.
Well, do you remember when we were in Europe, pimping our movie out?
Yeah.
We were going to a lot of coffee shops in Spain and in Germany and and the like.
Yeah.
And do you remember how we would sit down at the cafe and we'd get our coffee there, and then they would give you the coffee in a mug. Mm-hmm. And often with, just as we mentioned before, the little dish.
Yeah.
And you'd have that, and you'd sit down for a second, you'd have your cup of coffee, and then keep on rocking. I think that part of the problem we have in America is that people don't want to wait there. They don't want to hang out there and have
it's the rush.
The thing. And they've got to get where they're going. You got stuff happening, whatever,
Yeah.
So, with coffee shops becoming places to sort of hang out and do work, like people, they'll get work done there, or they'll have meetings there, whatever else. Maybe if these companies offered for those guys anyway, actual dishes that they could drink and
I agree
use like they do in Europe. That might be helpful for the garbage problem. At least the to-go people are still going to take a cup to go, but I mean that would certainly cut down on a percentage of the waste. That would be helpful, one would think.
Well, we're saying slow down, America.
That's it.
Slow down.
Slow down, America.
Slow down. You move too fast. You gotta make that morning last. So we're saying slow down, number one. And if you can't slow down, I think that we need to talk about some kind of. Okay, so one of the main reasons. Let's say I have my own personal coffee mug that Starbucks made it, and I bought it from them.
Right.
And I want to get a coffee, or I want to get a latte. There needs to be a way that I can go in, and maybe there is a more efficient way. But you go into a Starbucks, instead of using their cup, they get to put it in mine. Now I know there's health risks because if you're taking something could be contaminated with my saliva and bringing it back behind the counter.
Your Ebola could be in that cup.
I have been living with salmonella for 30 years. And I take it everywhere I go. Everywhere I go. So if you go in, that's a problem. But there needs to be, whether it's a station that you could fill a container with on your own once you paid, or they make it in a container and then you put your container out and then they fill it with the drink that they've made or something like that. We have to find a way to get away from these single-use paper cups. Because while paper is recyclable, the problem is not enough people are recycling them. They're getting into landfills. They're getting into waste. They're not being taken care of. So it's just causing it to accumulate. So there has to be some kind of innovation or change and shift in how we consume coffee in a to-go market. Yeah. That's the thing. We have to figure that
totally
out.
Well, and I think that again, if we start to look at what is the better option, or what is the simplest, quickest option to at least have some impact, I think certainly going European and
go European
for people who are eating in, drinking in, working in, coffeeing in,
all in.
We're all in. For people who are all in, let's not give them a to-go cup. Let's just stop that. You know? Let's just let's be responsible as a coffee place, and let's just give them a dish. And for the people who are going, look, some people are going to end up getting some paper cups and whatever else. But the thing about it is again, the paper, it does fill the landfill and it does take up the space, but at least it is biodegradable, so it's better than plastic cups.
Yeah, and so the lid needs to be solved.
The lid probably needs to be solved. And that honestly wouldn't be that impossible to do. So you figure out the lid,
closer.
and then at least you're cutting, at least a third, if not half of the garbage by having the people who drink in, use a dish.
I agree.
And the people who are out, okay, so they that maybe goes into a landfill. So let's get rid of the plastic part of that whole thing. So it at least biodegrades.
I agree.
And then start composting your dang Keurig cups.
Yeah,
brother.
Exactly. I know. I'm going to. I'm composting my Keurig cups, and actually, you know what?
Is it composting, or composting?
I think all of them work.
Is this like a Christopher Walken?
It's a Christopher composting.
Composting. Composting.
Exactly. All of them work, and they get the message across. And I think preferably you say them in the walk-in voice all three ways when you talk about
Whenever you're talking about if you're going to compost, or composting.
Exactly. It's amazing. So yeah, for me, I learned a huge lesson because, I used to always make my coffee, I actually used to back in the day when I felt like I had more time. Yeah. Slow down, America. I had the French press, and then we
should hashtag your coffee questions with Slow Down America.
Yeah, hashtag slow down America. Everything is so fast.
Such a dang rush about everything all the time.
All the time. When I was really, really into coffee, I would buy my beans, I'd grind them at home. I had a French press, and then I had this cool little thing called the AeroPress. Have you ever seen one of these before?
I've never seen an AeroPress.
It's like a vacuum tube, the French press, basically. You'd put your beans in there, and then you'd put the water, and then you push down this vacuum seal tube, and it made like the best cup of coffee ever.
Okay, I thought that's all a French press was, because I feel like the one I had did that.
It did, but not to the
like
level.
This.
Yeah, if you look up the AeroPress, it's pretty amazing. It does a few different things that make it even better, but each of those, French press and AeroPress, it's time, right? That's really what it boils down to, is you end up having kids, you get busy with work, you're running late, it's impossible to give yourself those treats, like the best cup of coffee, as opposed to I'll take this burnt Starbucks coffee to go, right? That we just run out of time.
Yeah.
But there's something to be said about taking the time. And if you can't take the time, then there's got to be ways that you've put in motion that you improve it, right? So if you're going to take a coffee to go, make sure you're supporting local shops that use more organic materials, fair trade, organic coffee, biodegradable cups. Look into that.
Or we'll let you have a cup that they will wash in their store.
Yes.
That's, you know what? Our audience, let's just make that a thing.
Make that a thing. You go get
if
coffee,
you've got
you go
a
in
shop
there
nearby.
You go in there and you get a cup.
Yeah, pick the one that's got cups that they can wash.
I love having, I got to tell you, when I meet somebody for coffee and I'm in a place that serves it in the big giant white, and it reminds me.
And they give me a little design, like a lavender leaf, or maybe
absolutely,
a chipotle spice.
It always reminds me of So I Married an Axe Murderer with Mike Myers. Like, he's got the giant
woman.
Yeah. He's got the giant coffee cup. That was a big thing, I think, in the 90s, for sure, or the early 2000s even, was the coffee shop with, like, the porcelain white cup, the oversized cup. There is something. So if you've never done that, we recommend it.
Do that. You're helping the environment.
Yeah, and slow down, America.
You're slowing down. Come on, America. Come on.
Noel just, that's my favorite thing Noel's ever uttered to me, just off to a side. Like we were just sitting there, he just goes, come on, America. And I was like, what's going on? What are you talking about?
One of the tough things about being in this business of the environment is you're constantly bombarded with like just so much of the like dire news and the world is going to end in this. And it's, it's not. We're going to fight back. Right. We're going to win this thing. One recyclable cup at a time.
Yeah, and we're going to do it for like 5 generations tops.
Yeah, that's it. That was
like
our decision.
We've said before.
That was our decision. 2,000 years and then they're on their own.
Right.
But, so sometimes you'll get in the middle of that and you got to be like, jeez.
Yeah.
Come on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So before we go, the one last thing that we want to mention is, so we've taught you about some of the things to look for, some of the ways that you can make your coffee more eco-friendly. One is avoid single serve cups, especially if they're the plastic ones. If you can get the biodegradable ones, the compostable ones, or the ones that you can fill yourself. Get a reusable filter, use your own mug, brew manually if you can, sit down in a coffee shop, get it at a dish, and buy from the right people who support these things. But the one last thing that I wanted to bring up is climate change. And if we don't fix the millions of problems that are being caused by the carbon emissions and our carbon footprints, it's going to take away coffee in general. So like, that's the thing. It's like this threatens in the bean belt that I mentioned earlier, like climate change threatens coffee production globally.
Yeah, it's actually
forever.
It's pretty fragile. It's a pretty fragile plant.
It is,
and it needs a very specific set of conditions to grow. And, and the more we change the environment, the more difficult it is for farmers to meet those conditions.
So that's why we're saying this is I don't want to lose my coffee. You don't want to lose your coffee. I like coffee, and so I think that the bigger lesson here is: look, we know that. Changing your daily schedule is a challenge, but all of these steps to lower the carbon emissions, the carbon footprint left behind by coffee production, milk production, sugar production, all of these different things that give you that in the morning, we have to work to make this more efficient and lessen our carbon footprints because we want to make sure that the bean belt continues to produce coffee in a healthy, sustainable way, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So we here at Biofriendly leave you with a strong message of slow down, America.
Slow down, America.
Is there anything else that you wanted to say before we're out of here?
No, I feel like that's it.
Yeah.
We did it. We just fixed coffee.
We did.
Forever.
Now let's go have a cup of coffee.
You got it.
It's the Biofriendly Podcast. It's the Biofriendly Podcast.